Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing? I know it's like funny when we're getting into the virtual reality of all of this.
I know we
Like,
live in so many dimensions, and everything is live but not real. So it's interesting. It's my first time doing live actually. I'm not used to doing any podcasts live on Instagram. So
I know it's only my second time. I've been playing with like Instagram, Facebook. It's crazy. It's all crazy.
mhm.
Um, but just so people know, we are on Zoom as well, and the information is on our posts on Instagram, where Celio Bordin is actually creating a live work of art, transforming the vibe of our conversation into artwork. He is a medium and a perception artist, so really, really cool. Um, Thanks for coming on, Eugenia.
Of course, yeah. When I heard about your project, the Humanizing the Icon, and I know you've been in Venice Biennale and working on series of the film, and it's always interesting to talk to artists about art and films, and I think it goes even deeper. So I'm really excited to chat with you.
Yeah, I loved our initial chat as well. I feel like we have so much in common in terms of, like you said, kind of feeling into the different dimensions of our existence, especially right now. Do you find it to be like a particularly creatively potent time, like being in quarantine and just the whole experience? How is it for you?
Of course, it's definitely amplified, and I think a lot of great creators, through history, they created and like their creativity actually amplified when they were alone or in hard circumstances. Like you can see a lot of incredible inventions come out when you are secluded or there's a war or something like that. Because as humans, we're so resilient, and I found it to be actually an inspiration. Of course, I go through so many feelings, just being compassionate and empathetic to people who are suffering more in this
Mhm.
situation. But I think as an artist, you definitely you kind of take everything that's there.
Yeah, somebody pointed out that as artists, we actually have a responsibility to document this unprecedented time. Like, do you feel that too? Like, it's like our job.
Yeah, I mean, it's anytime. It's much more than you art, and whatever you put, you always ask why you do it and um, how is it helpful or add something of value to the world. So especially, I think any art is a mirror of what's happening in the society to some extent. So absolutely, even in these times, it's amplified.
And what of the like many crafts that you are passionate about, do you find yourself kind of like focusing on the most right now? And because I know that you are into fashion and you are a model and very expressive in what I've seen. Like it's
Mhm.
not conventional a lot. Like you're really embodying different aspects of the feminine and different energies, and mystical too, and warrior like. I mean, it's so powerful what you do. And then you're also a comedian and you're also an actress. It's fascinating. So what do you focus on now? And yeah, just tell me about that.
I'm focusing now on learning math and how to teach my kids school
Oh,
online.
nice. An art in itself, huh?
Yes, yeah, it is. Never knew I'm going to become a teacher because I've been just modeling since I was a child. So it's interesting. I actually learn a lot of things about, history, and there's always things to learn. Creatively, I feel I'm actually doing a lot of virtual shows. I'm doing one with Flappers Comedy Club in LA, and it's kind of like
Mm.
that. It's by Zoom, so I'm going to do it from my closet.
Oh, cool.
Yes, tomorrow. Oh, no, on Saturday. And oh yeah, tomorrow is Saturday. Sorry, I'm like losing,
What
perception of
time
time.
tomorrow?
And
What time
yes,
tomorrow? If we don't mind.
we're doing it at 6:30.
Oh, cool.
There's
Okay.
a lot of comedians who are doing that, and I've done already a show in the studio with social distancing, and we, donate our time for like Doctors Without Borders, lots of different kind of
Oh,
shows,
wow.
and yeah, I'm learning how to sing, which is so terrifying. I have a project where I have to be a real singer, and I think I denied that for such a long time because growing up in Russia, we were, in post-Soviet times, it was hard to find your voice. We grew up in actual food lines, and there was no food.
Wow, yeah.
So it's very interesting because this project came to me and it's like, you have to learn how to sing now. There's no way. And it's so terrifying, but I'm working with my coach, Greg Seffel, every week, and we're learning the songs that the filmmakers sent to me, and it's very interesting.
Oh, that's fun. What kind of music is it?
It's kind of like slow pop, I would say, more slow pop. I mean, the character, she is a lounge singer, but she's an actress who's like a singer. So, I don't know exactly how to describe music. It's kind of new for me, even though I finished the school in Russia on piano, but, I was kicked out a lot of times.
Oh my God, why? You were unruly?
They were so strict when we were growing up. Unless you would compete for Olympics, they wouldn't take you. So you have to pass all these exams. Like I was ice skater, and we had to pass so many exams. We have to train so hard, like on ice cold weather, no matter what. So I pursued that. And then when I wanted to start to do music and go to music school, they actually said, well, your hearing is not really good. So actually, we're not going to take you. But I'm such a persistent person that I think I auditioned like 7 or more times, and at the end they just let me in. And I learned to listen, I think, through the music, through like playing piano, and that just shows that it's possible for anybody to do anything in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible. And so when did you come here from Russia?
I moved to Paris when I was 15. I was scouted by an agency, and it was kind of end of Soviet time in Russia, and a lot of companies like Coca-Cola and other American companies, they started coming. They needed models for advertisement, and that opened the whole market. Like, I don't know if you remember in modeling, there were a lot of Brazilian models and then Russian models who came. It was a very different time than now. All the influencers, obviously, it was kind of end of like supermodels, and then all these exotic girls were coming in, and that's when I moved to Paris. And 1 second, is that okay? I know it's live, it's not like edited, but I think I have to open the door for my kids.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
no problem.
I'll be back.
So I'll fill people in. I'm Jennifer DeLia. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, producer, and an artist. I met
my daughter.
Oh, how old's your daughter?
She's 8.
Aw, nice. Did you, finish? You can go back to what you were saying, and then.
So yeah, I started modeling when I was 15, but it was not really, like, we didn't really have an industry or any glamour. It was more to make money for my family, because my dad actually was a nuclear scientist, but he was making less money than I was as a model, which was really crazy at the time. So I moved to Paris and kind of was sending all my money, saving them and sending them back to my family. And then I moved to New York after.
Wow. Did you want to be a model, or was it something that kind of found you?
I wanted to be an astronaut. So, but it's interesting because women were not very encouraged at that time. They're like, well, you can downgrade your dreams and be a flight attendant. It's very interesting. So I wasn't really
flight attendant.
Even
that
though
sounds like such a nightmare to me, to be a flight attendant.
Well, I wanted to travel, and I feel like air is a big element for me. I really, used to do skydiving, and my friend, he's a pilot, so we used to fly a lot. So I really wanted to, to explore, and I was very curious. And I left space because my dad used to work on the space project in Russia, and he used to bring all this kind of toys. We didn't have a lot of toys, right? It wasn't like all the stores had a lot of toys, but my dad actually used to bring these things that astronauts were training on. Like, there was a disc where you rotate so fast that like you actually can sustain, you know, when you go to space. So I used to train and all this toys and
so
like
cool.
getting ready to go to space. So it was really far from modeling or where I finished.
But you have like a wild imagination.
I think so. Yeah, I was a very sensitive kid, and actually even my teachers said like I'm too sensitive, so I should be homeschooled because I just feel a lot of, you know, people's energy or things like that. So yeah, I think I started creating my own friends because, you know, I was also an introvert, so my imagination kind of developed through that. And since they told me like I'm too sensitive, I think I got sick on purpose as a child a lot, so I didn't have to deal with rejection.
Wow. You know who that reminds me of? Actually, Andy Warhol.
Oh,
Do you know?
interesting.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah, he had some interesting like social rejection issues like within, and it happened to him literally, but it really like cultivated his art and his persona, which brings me to humanizing the icon too, in terms of creating identity. Our first conversation was about, you know, that kind of exploration that I'm on, where Mary Pickford was the portal. And then, like you said, we landed at the Venice Biennale to exhibit art that helped us open up that paradigm of what is icon, what is human, is there a difference? So what like attracted you to that subject upon like our first, you know, conversation, and how do you think about that? Because you obviously wear a lot of hats, and do you kind of feel like they're different characters, or do you feel like they're all integrated? How do you perceive that?
Well, it's interesting because I grew up in Russia and I finished now in Hollywood. So it's a very different perspective. You know, growing up, I never had icons. My only icon was like one of the astronauts who's a teacher who went on Challenger. So that was the only icon I had. But other than that, you know, I don't really believe in the icon. It's very interesting now being an actor and being around actors and see how people perceived, you know, what is the icon and what is human. And I think, to be honest with you, I think sometimes it's easy to, I think it started from like archetypal history of like gods, when we worship gods, you know, and there were icons. And I think people do that when I think someone will do that when they don't feel they're in control, or like it's easy to give somebody else the power. But what I learned from everything for me is like once you take your power back, then you're equal with anybody, you know. So it takes a lot of self-work, but then you don't need to blame anybody else for like good things in the world or bad things in the world, because we iconize, you know, a human person and give him all this power, so we don't have to deal with ourselves, I think, you know, in some ways.
Absolutely. And so in terms of even the situation now, you know, like this virus is becoming an iconic virus. You know, I think of icon as something that sort of appears to be larger than life. It's not necessarily a person. It can be a trait. It could be love. It could be a political movement, you know, an iconic moment in time. People want to blame a lot for what is going on right now. And like you said, hand the power over to the system or someone or something. What do you think about that? Or what would you say to a friend who is actually doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with messages from outside, you know, in the news, and, you know, there's not enough of negativity that goes around. I think it's important to stay centered and accept what is happening. And it's kind of similar to me, you know, to improv, because you have to be present in the moment, accept what's happening, and say yes to that. And then see what you can, you know, how you can help and like in present situation. a lot of things are happening like in your mind, you know, and it's swirling. But if you center, like, and right now I'm present, I'm right here, I'm healthy, you know, so it's not like I don't need to take a lot of negative messages. I can just see what I can, how can I stay positive and what I can do about the current situation. And for example, like I found a way to get masks and send them to some nurses, you know, and like it's so great. There's so much going on that you can do, you know, or just stay present where you are. That helps, you know, consciously, I think, also.
So are you staying away from the news or from media?
I am still human, you know. I'm not like, of course, I get overwhelmed, especially I try as much as I can just to balance, you know, myself through the day because I have kids, so I actually can't, you know, give in on the outside. I'm responsible for, you know, their well-being and my family and like my dog and things like that and my friends, you know, and supporting. But of course, there's just so much bombardment that, you know, there was a day when I just collapsed. And, you know, I think as an artist, you go like up and down, or like any person, you go up and down. It's impossible to like be on one wave and just, you know, be not conscious about others and what's happening.
What do you see any what's the silver lining right now for this moment?
I feel for every person, it's so personal. You know, I think it's not, it is collective for sure. And I mean, I have been working a lot since my dad, like he was a nuclear scientist, but he also really, really worked on ecology because he was the first one to go to Chernobyl with Kurchatov. I don't know if you guys seen the series, but you know, our government didn't allow to disclose information how much territory was affected. So they really felt they were responsible for these people getting sick, and they couldn't reveal information. But I think so I'm also working a lot on ecology, you know, and before all this happened, we were trying to like eliminate, we're working with Friend Drescher Foundation, Cancer Schmancer, trying to eliminate like plastic use, and, you know, we're trying to collect plastic from the beach. And right now, you know, of course, it showed like there's the pollution in the air. You can research. There's much less pollution, and, you know, as humans, I think we can come back and be more conscious about that, like not littering. You know, I can't believe I still see people when they wear gloves, they just throw them in the parking lot, and I'm like, you know, it's so easy to be just conscious about putting this glove into the trash, or, you know, anything like that, like small acts of kindness. I think a lot of people would come back to that when we're back, you know, hopefully.
Yeah, and just like the reminder that we are part of the ecosystem, that
Yeah,
we're not separate from it. And I think that's like, it's such an amazing reminder. So what is it that you find fascinating teaching math? Is there like how do you go about that?
I mean, it's different system in US. You know, I grew up in Soda, so it was completely different system. But it's interesting. I mean, I think we talked about it. Like, I love quantum physics. I have a lot of friends who are very, you know, into like all these things. And actually, my friend, I think, who's here, he lives in Palo Alto, and you know, we researched a lot of new technology and like all these scientists. So it's interesting. I mean, it just coming back to basics. I think all the universe is like is perfectly in balance in a way. There's a lot of research on, you know, like sacred architecture and how flowers are made perfect, and, you know, this kind of thing. So it's math, you know, all the beauty in the same way. In chaos, there's beauty.
Absolutely.
Order.
So going back to the icon for a second,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that there's like a way that we can actually shift the paradigm to where we can get away from idolizing?
I hope so. I think it takes, you know, self-awareness and self-power. And I think it's a gradual process, just seen from my industry, for example, from modeling, it was such a standard of like, this is the idol, you know, and like all the magazines, like you have to be blonde and like, obviously I'm blonde, but you know, there was like a specific idol. But now there's so many more models, you know, there's all kind of models, young, older models, you know, Elon Musk's mom was like in her 70s and, you know, she models. So I think it's a diversity. And once we realize that like anybody can be a model, there's no such standard of like, you're beautiful and you're not, you know, but it takes a lot of self-love and consciousness and awareness to take that power back.
Do you think beauty itself could be the icon, and beauty as in like an inner beauty, you know, that maybe people are seeking something outside of themselves because they're not aware of their own inner beauty? It sounds almost like silly to say it because it's kind of like a new age conversation a lot, but I mean it, like to really connect with that self-worth, you know, and that.
For sure. I think also as women, we're just not taught to support each other. It's interesting. And it's so easy to go into comparing like, oh, you know, like I wish I was like thinner, or like I wish that or this, or like having a negative saying like, oh, I'm too old to do that, you know. And I feel like if we consciously support each other, and that's why I started, actually, not I started, but we started with a few comedians, this amazing you know, amazing group, and we travel around the country. Who knows when we can travel now, but
yeah,
travel around the country, and they're incredible. You know, comedy, it's a very lonely world, but I feel like I found such an amazing group of friends and artists, and we're, you know, very supportive of each other, and we all doing comedy. And I think there is a hope, you know, for like self-love, especially I think for women, you know, to support each other.
What did you think about like the Me Too movement, when you talk about like women supporting each other? Do you feel like that has been an important step in the progression? Yeah, I'm just curious.
It's very complicated. I think if you're not in a situation, I'm not in a position to judge, you know, what really happens to people. Of course, if I was there, that would be like a different thing, you know. And I think it's very important. It's important to have a voice to say how you feel, you know, and important to listen to both sides, you know. And it's about power. It's about abuse of power, not specifically gender, you know, because I think there are men who also have some issues, you know. It's really that. And my friend and somebody, you know, Chiara Telesi, she runs organization We Do It Together. So I think it's a next step where actually we're not scared of like, oh, okay, I can't like touch you like at all, because, you know, because I feel like I have a boy and a girl, I have 2 boys and a girl, so how do you raise boys also in this climate, you know? So I think there's a next step where we find solutions and not just blaming, but I think it's a step, obviously, you know, to reveal the trauma and then heal it.
Yeah. And you talk about this, like the carefulness of not touching, which is like a double meaning in terms of the pandemic.
Sure.
Right? This transition into like back into society. What's that going to look like? Are we going to be different with like our affection? And what do you think? Do you talk to your parents about this stuff? Do they have...
Well, I grew up in Russia, so our culture is a little bit colder. It's interesting, right? Like in Italy, they have, or Brazil, like I used to go model to Brazil all the time, and everybody's just hugging and dancing together. And in Russia, it's more like, I need time to really know you.
Okay, yeah.
So it's interesting also, you know, by different cultures. I think it's such an important thing. Like we share intimacy as humans through touch. So, you know, hopefully it will go back.
Yeah, so it's interesting that the pandemic comes off the heels too of Me Too, both about physicality, proximity, how boundaries, like kind of almost humanizing movements in a way where, but I agree with Chiara in terms of how do we change the narrative? Like, how do we integrate as whole people the fact that we all embody the masculine and the feminine, right?
Yeah, my friend Emma Pine is here. She's one of the comedians on the tour. So happy to see you.
Hi, Emma.
You know, it's so amazing to see so many women in comedy. Just really excited, and so many talented and diverse voices.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's like that's an arena where you really see like the integration of the masculine and the feminine, and sort of anything goes, right? Kind of.
For sure. Yeah, you take power on creating your story. That's what I love. Like nobody tells you, oh, you only have to play like a Russian, whatever, you know, cliche. You actually can educate people and heal people and yourself, obviously, too, through narration that you create. And you have such a power. You have a voice, you know. It's not just socializing. It's actually saying your true message. And comedy, it's a lot of times interesting because like when I do podcasts, people would say like, oh, are you funny? Like, tell me a joke. Or like in social situations. And it's, you know, I'm not a person who is like always like, let me tell you jokes, because comedy is not about jokes at all. It's about facing the truth. And the more deeper you discover it with yourself and the situations that occur to you and your strong point of view about that, that's what people relate to. And that's why we laugh, because we recognize, you know, it happens to everybody, and it's honest.
So you draw from your own personal narrative for your shows?
For sure. Yeah, I think the more personal you get, the more honest you are, you know. So it's always, I love comedians because they're people who like jump off the cliff and, you know, just go for it. So I think I admire people who take a lot of courage. But musicians, I mean, there's so many different artists. I can judge one medium over the other.
Are you into the law of attraction? Like,
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
How does that connect to your childhood in terms of, you know, being introduced to quantum physics and stuff so early?
Well, it's interesting because growing up like in post-Soviet Russia, there was a lot of propaganda, especially in like history books. Like we knew it wasn't like the history, it was changing, but you know, for 70 years, like it was one thing. And we were taught also like not to draw outside the lines, to like follow the rules. You know, if you want to speak up, you have to raise your hand. Like we were taught and very strict, and there was kind of a lot of negativity in myself when I was growing up. And I remember I came to Paris, I was this introverted child, you know, not like a model, like they used to send me on castings, and some girls, they have that confidence and presence maybe, you know, but I would come and just like try to disappear. And I was like, no, I'm not pretty enough, whatever, you know, like all this narrative was running. And then I just remember when I started kind of studying about the thought process and how, you know, the law of attraction, and just working on my thoughts and being positive, everything changed. Like I would come into the, you know, casting or audition or whatever with like 50 girls, and I feel like I had a different vibe, and that's why I started booking jobs, and it changed my life with everything.
By being yourself.
By being myself, and also having, you know, just being aware of the like critical parent. They're different ego stages that like I'm studying now in acting. So the critical parent comes in and it's still there, but I'm just toning down that voice. So, you know, it's self-awareness. And also like when I started acting, I started after having kids, and like people would say like, you're crazy. You know, people start this medium when they're kids. You have an accent, like there's no way like you can do anything. There's like nothing. So I feel whenever somebody says no to you, it's more reflection of their level and awareness than your own. So it's interesting to discover that too.
Absolutely. I felt like I got a lot of resistance too growing up. I grew up in Kansas, and actually my great-grandparents and stuff are from Russia, so we have that in common, but I'm not familiar with Russia as a place. But I grew up in a situation too where there was a lot of resistance to the pursuit of, you know, my dream to be a storyteller and to become a filmmaker, or to be an artist. You know, writing was always my passion since I was really little, and psychology. I was really into what made humans behave the way that they did. Like, I would have, I swear, these out-of-body experiences. Like, I don't know if you ever had one.
I did ayahuasca.
Yeah? How was that? Okay. Here we go.
I feel like I interrupted your message whenever you were trying to finish.
Conversation. This is cool. It's like that, though. Go ahead. Yeah. What was your experience with plant medicine?
It's interesting because, you know, a lot of I heard a lot of my friends who are like musicians started doing that, and then some actors, and I kind of got a hold of that, so I wanted to try it. And I'd never done any like drugs or mushrooms. Like it's just, I feel like my system is so sensitive. I can only process wine. So.
Can you say where in the world you did the ceremony?
I did this in Los Angeles, so you definitely, what I would advise anybody wanting to do that is like to research the circumstances, and, you know, talk to somebody who facilitates that. And it's really important. It's not like an easy process for sure, because you definitely meet a lot of your demons.
I worked with it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to describe in words, but I feel like it saved me so much years of therapy, and you know, kind of had a lot of revelations about myself and life, and kind of taking responsibility for anything that happens in my life. So that was really cool.
How many times did you sit with it?
I've done it once. So for me, it was so much. And it's interesting because I never perceived myself as like a controlling person, but because it took me so much out of control, I was actually like, no, like I want to be back, you know? And like it scared me. I think I'll go back once I'm more ready for that, but I felt it gave me so much. And what's interesting is like I'm kind of a person who's always trying to stay on the light side, and, you know, like encourage everybody, and, you know, let's do it. Like there's so much, like I'm always pursuing the light. But what it taught me, that like you have to fall in love with your darkness too, and integrate that, because it literally, like when I drank that tea, it took me to hell, and I was like, this is not what I was like expecting. But then I like, and it wouldn't take me out until I learned how to love all my shadows and dark sides and accept that. And that's when I had a lot of revelations, you know, about life, and also love. Like I learned that love can be dependent or codependent. And I'm learning about that in relationships. Of course, we are all dependent on each other, but like it truly taught me that true love, like even for my kids, I can't learn them and like depend on, on them. Like it's because it's like my mother image, like I'm a mom, so it identifies me as a mom, right? So I can love them only unconditionally and let them be who they are and not project on them.
Absolutely. And okay, so I've worked with Shaman as well, and have had some really powerful experiences. Are you seeing people you know?
Yeah.
I know. I saw my producing partner, Martine, pop up too. Hi. And I've had some people like in the Indigenous community speak about the time that we're in right now with the pandemic as, you know, a ceremony for the world, right? Like we're going through like a purge as a collective.
Sure.
And it's sometimes important for us to not, like you said, project onto other people about, oh, I feel sorry for them. Oh, you know, like go into fear and not be supportive, right? Like when we're in fear and we're just worrying about people and we're just panicked, like the people in the hospital, the people on the front line, the people like really going through some super challenging experiences right now. what does the shaman do in ceremony when you're going through that?
Ask ceremony?
Or just in any, they hold space for that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't stand over you with fear, right? Like they help you to move that energy through so you can get to the other side, like you're talking about.
Sure.
So I often think about my role in this pandemic as like raising my vibration as such a vital aspect to helping everyone move the energy through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love your message, and Mary Pickford is such a fascinating. I think we need to talk more about the character and your film. I can't wait or TV series that you were creating. It's so interesting. I would love to know more. I started researching. I didn't know that she created Hollywood and Oscar, and it's kind of not known, right? She's such a
about Mary Pickford.
Yeah,
and she's cool too. She was really into indigenous wisdom too, and she was around during the pandemic 100 years ago. So it's kind of a full circle. But yeah, she was the mother of Hollywood, and she did all those things. She founded United Artists, was the female founder of the Academy. But mostly what I love about her was just her like support of artists and community, and pushing artists to not dumb down the medium for the masses, but to really be fearless and raise the bar in storytelling so that we can help humanity expand. She was talking
absolutely.
about that 100 years ago. So I think that's powerful. And at this time, it's really cool to be kind of rebirthing her in a way,
Yeah, can't wait to see the like series of the film. It's definitely a story that it's fascinating, especially like if she was the first producer and also an actress. It's great to see now a lot of women in Hollywood who are taking in their own hands the narrative of their storylines and things like that.
Yeah, she's definitely a pioneer of independent artistry. And someone saying, I don't know if you know this person, Joseph Campbell would say we're going through an experience of the epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool message. Yeah, it's like an awakening,
For sure. Yeah, I love actually meditation. I do a lot of meditating with this place Spirit Talk, and we do silent retreats with my husband once a year, and they have really cool online meditations now. And there's a lot of interesting messages.
Are you finding meditation is like helpful?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just refocusing and stopping, the chatter. Like, we're so busy, and I'm guilty of that. I'm the person, like all of my friends know, like always up, always running, always doing something. Like there's a new project, there's a new film, there's like everything. I need to do everything. But now you're just forced to quiet down and calm down. And I feel like meditation is so helpful with that.
Are you meditating more, would you say, right now? Or
for sure. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. It's like as a mom and like a working mom, sometimes it's just hard to find that space. But what I learned through this time, for me, it's very important now to learn boundaries, setting boundaries even in the space like that. Like, you haven't seen kids now because usually they run in and out, and like everybody wants, you to do something, and like, you're a caretaker. So it's very important to set up also your space and, self-care.
So you have really cool art in your house.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, my husband loves collecting art. I love different works more from perspective, just, whatever like appeals. Yeah, I have this piece behind me which says we will meet again and again and again. So
yeah, that reminds me of like the quantum. That's really cool. Yeah. Who are some of your like favorite artists?
Klimt, and it's so hard to say like who's your favorite artist. I love Laura Owens. I actually had a privilege to go to her studio, and she's just such incredible craftsmanship. Sometimes you don't realize until you really see the work that goes behind that. So you can see her art, you know, all over, like in MoMA and like different museums, and it's just so specific. And she, you know, she used to teach art, and just how much she puts into her work. So yeah, I mean, there's so many interesting art. I love Barbara Kruger. I don't know if you know about her. She's a conceptual artist, and I have a cup with like from some museum, and it talks about like she's kind of showing people the materialism and what it does to us as humanity. So it's very interesting too, like, you know, about icons and like objectifying some things, or, you know, material things, and getting attached to them, or concepts. So she's really cool.
Oh, she explores that attachment.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you get attached to things like from the past?
Well, you know what? I remember one of my teachers, like very early on, said that you'll be happy if you're not going to attach to anything. And I think I was 15. I was like, what? But like, I have nothing. And like, once I became a model and I earned my first salary, I remember I bought a Prada bag. I was like, yes, now I can afford this. Because, you know, usually like as a model, you wear all these dresses, but you obviously have to give them back after your job is complete.
Mm-hmm.
So I did get attached for sure, especially as somebody who comes from like nothing. I bought this Porsche and I was like, yes, you know, now I have a Porsche. But I think like last year, it really came to me. I think I was at Cannes Film Festival and I felt like I have everything, you know, like all this like glamour and like, you know, all these material things, like after working so hard. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, you know, that's not it. Like I really, really came to conclusion. I started reading a book, The Second Mountain. You know, they said there's like a second mountain when you learn your true purpose in life. And it's beyond just like achieving or accumulating or being at like material success or whatever, you know, whatever you want to like have kids or, you know, whatever is as a person, like you were trained by society to achieve. And then there's a second mountain when you actually learn things that matter and like why you're here. So, you know, definitely working on that. There's a hierarchy of needs, like you probably know, you know, from psychology. So, yeah.
Are you into Buddhism at all?
I'm not religious. I'm more spiritual. So I really take from every religion. And I think all the religion, they kind of have a silver lining in them. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's hard to like follow, you know, a guru or somebody else like that. It just, you know, I want to have my self-power, but I'm definitely very spiritual.
Did you happen to see that documentary that was in Cannes a couple of years ago about the Pope?
I haven't seen it.
No, it's okay. I went and saw it in a theater in New York, and me and my dad were the only two people in the theater. So I don't think it was really marketed much, but it did open in Cannes. But there was just this really powerful image in that documentary with religious leaders from all different religions with their arms around each other and basically saying that they're just wearing different outfits. And at the core of it all is really this universal love. And It was so powerful. I was like, why doesn't that go viral? Why doesn't an image like that go viral?
Well, I think it's a level of like evolution of consciousness, you know? Mm-hmm. So as a collective, hopefully like your story will be told and it will make people curious about other things, you know? And I think it's all about curiosity and learning new concepts, because it's so easy, you know, so by society or culture to stop learning at some point too, you know, like you were told what to do and you just get lazy and like you don't want to learn concepts outside of your perception of reality. Mm-hmm. So I think once, you know, you open up those little doors, like you have more curiosity to learn different things.
It's so true. I was just talking about this with a friend, like how you actually have to become aware that there's another way to see things, even if you don't know what that other way is. It's like we're so at the center of our belief structure mm-hmm. that we don't often even know that it's just programming.
Absolutely.
There's completely another way.
For sure. And I think that's the most important skill in life actually, is to keep learning. You know how like at a certain age, maybe some people repeat the same stories over and over. And like I have this whole program where it says like you have to learn a new skill every time. If you write with right hand, start writing with left hand, and it will unlock some pathways in your brain that like make you see things in different ways, or learn a language. And it's so easy just to slack on that, you know, like you have all your comfort and you never want to, you know, do something that you've never done before.
Exactly. Yeah, like drive a different way to work. It just like it makes you like be awake, you know, because otherwise you can drive somewhere without even being awake, basically.
Yeah, well, you know, the Truman Show, like I know that you like, you know, Jim Carrey's work, and as an artist I think he's got a lot of films that kind of show that, right?
Yeah, I love Eternal Sunshine. It's one of my favorite movies, for sure. Yeah, I think just like in conclusion to this talk, which has gone in so many different directions, like it's amazing. I love that. Artists are really great channels for breaking down these different paradigms that we're exploring, you know? And I think it's really cool that you walk in so many different arenas. And I think you really push yourself outside your comfort zone, and probably have many, many times. And that's really why I wanted to talk to you and like find you really, really inspiring, you know?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I'm really inspired by your storytelling, you know, and your understanding. And I think we need more authors like that, for sure. And, you know, congratulations on your Venice Biennale. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do with that, because that's, you know, that's power. And like when you have it, it's really interesting what, you know, what you're going to do with that. So I'm looking forward to that. And I love your message, you know, humanizing the icon, and bringing it to awareness and spreading it in a good way.
Thank you. And like, can you see Celio on Zoom?
Yes, yes.
Show us the art piece, Celio.
Too bad you can't see it on Instagram, right?
No, can I turn my phone? Will it work to show it?
So cool.
I'm here, okay.
Can you see it?
No, can't see it. I see your couch. Your green couch.
It's
we're gonna
Eugenia,
post it anyway, but that's a powerful image. Celio, can you tell us what it is?
this is full of people, Eugenia, in her life have a
I
lot
can't
of...
hear him, at least on Instagram. It's like silent. Maybe.
Oh no, I turned on the volume on Zoom. Can you
Oh.
can you do that, Eugenia? And then you can
Sure.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. And then it's coming a lot of people. I think Eugenia, Eugenia Live is full of people, and is two not double personality, but is two style of life. One is a reaction to the all maybe business or contact, and the other is I think so is at the dark side for respect to the family, and then I think so because I think this family is very beautiful, and then is she divides herself in two person in life. One is work, and one is family.
Oh.
This is what coming from my perception. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It sounds like it's like the different layers of your psyche.
Yeah, I think, you know, I feel like it's important to keep some things private, as like your family. It's, you know, it's, you can't just like put it out all the time. But yeah, definitely, like I thank you for channeling.
Yeah, it's beautiful, Celio. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of energy is coming inside of this. I'm tired now.
Oh, he said he felt a lot of energy coming from this talk, and he's tired now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I know. I can't wait to watch this talk, because we're both non-linear, so we went. I loved it. All right, I guess that's a wrap for today. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, my first time doing this, so thank you for.
And you really are a light. You really are such an inspiration. So I'm excited to keep an eye on you and collaborate.
Yeah, can't wait.
Me too. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.